Okay, so it's still gonna take us a minute. So how are you? How's
I
it
am
going?
fantastic.
Well,
A
it's so
beautiful
good to
day.
see you. I am so excited about today. I cannot tell you how much fun it was to hear all the exciting things that you've got going on.
Yeah, it's been a journey. And yesterday was a great conversation. So I'm looking forward to I'm pulling the workbook up now so I can get a look at it. And I'm looking forward to continuing that conversation. I think it's going to be great.
So just to recap, Lindsay, I did not give you like a proper introduction yesterday, thinking everyone joined us for our like live that we did last week to talk
Yeah.
about it. So I ended up going in and putting it in the notes, like in the comments from yesterday. So for those of you guys that do not know, I'm honored to say, my dear friend Lindsay Sims. She is the owner of Predictable Results Marketing, and
Mhm.
she is the hand-picked, chosen Google representative, the digital coach for our entire region. And I'm so honored that you're here.
Thank
So the
you.
wealth of knowledge, I have questions for you because I did my homework like a good
Good.
girl.
Good.
So we're gonna dive into that, the practicality of it all, because I'm
Hmm.
like, I gotta do some homework.
Yeah.
So
I think we all do.
yeah, well, it's so funny because it is true. Like the shoemakers, kids don't have shoes. Like, right?
Yep.
The marketer doesn't always have time to market your own business. So I get
Yes.
it.
That has been one of our biggest challenges. And I think it's been this year. And when I say this year, I mean like the COVID year. I think we're all going to be like this year. And what we really
Years.
mean is like since March of 2020 for the rest of our lives. We'll say
Yeah, it's like it's a
this
chunk. It's
year,
grouped
it's going to
together.
just be all of that. But this year, this time period that we're in right now has been transformative because at the beginning of and I will be completely honest, my first hire in years was actually because one of my former students was like just immediately out of work. Like she was working in the wedding industry. And as we all know, if any industry took a serious hit during COVID, it was the wedding industry because there's like there was very few ways to have a good wedding that had planners and all that stuff during COVID. Like you had to just not have it or get like elope or whatever. And so she was completely out of work and I brought her on to work with me. And that was like the first time that I had someone who was basically dedicated to doing marketing for us while I worked on client work. And that was like, whew. And so now I have like 3 people on my team who work on the business. And I mean, it's the reverse. Y'all know, everyone who has a business knows that I'm doing it the wrong way, but it's still a big difference where I have 3 people who are working on the business and I'm still doing client work, but they're working on like marketing for the business. And I know it should be them doing client work and me working on the business, but right now this works for us. So this
Well,
works.
I think you have a unique advantage in this way. You're working on the business, your higher level mind.
Yes.
So I think you're still doing it. Like I think you need to give yourself grace there. You're doing it the right way. They're just doing the tactical pieces
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
you shine in this spot. So
Yeah.
sometimes in business we have to figure out what works for our business. It doesn't have
What
to work
our
for
role
everybody.
is. That's
Yeah.
true. That's true. And I do direct the path. So, like yesterday, when I was telling everyone that, like, you have to know what it is you want done before you can hire someone to do it. Same thing with me and my business. If I didn't know what the marketing was that I wanted people to do, or the visibility that I needed, or that my business needed, I wouldn't be able to hire someone to do that stuff. So, like, I had to create the strategy and direct the path and all that. And now they can actually be out there doing the stuff. So,
Which is amazing. Well, that's exciting. That's really exciting. So
yeah.
that's wonderful. And it is true though, right? Like you're doing it in a different way, but I think for your type of business, that makes the ultimate sense because you
Yeah.
are working on it because you're doing all the high level stuff.
Yeah.
And it's funny because we can always say that to other people, like, oh yeah, you have to know exactly what to do to help people. That is
Mm-hmm.
probably the number one thing I do help salon owners with is
Mm-hmm.
having a written standard operating,
Yeah.
right? Having a
Yeah.
video training because we're dealing with people that are very visual.
Mm-hmm.
So when we switched and started having people like the video training, like this is how we do it here, game changer.
Yep.
It's like the number one thing I think people hire me to do because
Yeah.
you don't have time or you just like are like think it's a bigger thing than it needs
Yeah.
to be. So that's fine.
No, that's really smart. And then even internally in our business, one of the things that's made hiring, so I've, brought on like full-time employees, I have part-time employees, I have all these different people in different roles. And one of the things that we do, or I do, is whenever I need them to do something, I record the video of myself doing it, showing them what it is we need to do. And then we put that in a file so that they can always refer back to those videos. Now, for those of you who are like, I don't have no employees and I won't for years, start doing that way before you think you should. Start tracking and cataloging and like documenting your processes, because it makes developing that standard operating procedure stuff so much easier. And then when you have an employee, like I have my one full-time employee who happens to, like, I have other employees that are part-time, but my one full-time employee happens to also be my fiance. And so I'll have a process and I'm like, this is the process. And he's like, this is what I did. And I'll be like, why didn't you do the process?
It's right.
So the process is documented. If you need to review the documentation, go ahead and do that. But we need to do, because honey, you are not on an island. So we have that right now in our relationship where I'm like, I don't really care in the end how you get it done, but at the same time, we do have a process. So
Because we take all the time to do that. I know.
Yeah.
I remember always thinking like, okay, if I'm training people, that was always the goal, even from the day one of opening a salon. It was, I'm training other people to do this. So I always looked at it where I was replacing myself.
Yeah.
So I always so it always takes longer because you have to write it down. You have to like make it teachable into easy steps.
Yeah.
And I like to make everything like, okay, talk to me like I'm in first grade or kindergarten.
Yeah.
So like really complicated things, let's break them down and make them simple. And that's what you're going to do for us today. So that is like so perfect.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing. It's like, take things that can be like complicated when it comes to marketing and, overall strategy, and let's make it like user-friendly stuff.
User-friendly. Yes. So today is all about goal setting. For all of you who were with us yesterday, for those of you who weren't, you can jump right in where we are right now. But for those of you who were with us yesterday, we talked about like the mindset, the roadblocks, the things that are kind of getting in our way. And we went over a little bit of an assessment, ways for you to kind of think about where you are right now. Today, we really want to talk about like making sure that you have visibility goals. So the whole point of this 3-day series is to help us be more marketable, like helping us all be essentially more in line with growth. And if we are going to grow our businesses as owners of the business, we need to get really comfortable with visibility. So I really made this entire, all the marketing activities around this are about visibility, because I think visibility is such a huge issue for us. A lot of us don't want to be seen. And unfortunately, the reality is that in order for us to be successful at our businesses, whether you are, I understand not wanting to be the center of attention. I also don't want to be the center of attention, but you have to, on some level, accept that as the business owner, you are the core representative of the business.
And that was that big takeaway. I wrote it down on the very front cover. Be the authentic representative of your business. Right?
Yeah.
Or appoint somebody. If you're really camera shy, then that's fine. That you can still be the grand master conductor of the plan. You just have another person, in front of the camera, if that's the case.
Yep. And there's nothing wrong with having a spokesperson. There are plenty, and even with small businesses, there are plenty of small businesses that have spokespeople. I will use an example that I think it's really great. There's a business called, the business is called this, so you can look it up by this name. It's called You Need a Budget. And it is a small business and they have a team. I don't know how many people are on their team now, but when the owner, Jesse Meacham, when he first started, he was the representative of the business. And I think on a very real level, he didn't want to be. And so from very early on, he actually hired someone whose job basically was to do like YouTube videos and explainer videos. And so now if you follow them, they have, I think, a team of 4 people who are responsible for all the visibility work of the business. Those 4 people are essentially the representatives of the business. He's still around doing like podcasts and things like that, but his face is not on everything because he didn't really want that to be the core way he ran the business. So you don't have to be the spokesperson for the entire time, But like Jesse had to do, you might need to be in the beginning before you can afford to hire a spokesperson or someone to kind of fill in that role. You might actually have to be that person, and that's perfectly fine. So kind of come to terms with it, accept it. It's probably going to be temporary especially if you want it to be. It doesn't have to be temporary. There are people like Sarah Blakely, who is the owner of Spanx, and everyone, all of us female entrepreneurs know and love Sarah Blakely.
We love her. Yeah, we love her.
She is goddess.
Yes,
we are poor, like, underlings who are just like bowing at her feet. Like, she's the best. And she has been the entire time for Spanx, the number one spokesperson. I just literally, like a couple months ago, her first appearance back in person, like her first in-person appearance, she was on Instagram. She was like, so I'm like everybody else. I gained the COVID, whatever. Like, she's so skinny. She was like, I gained my little COVID 5. And I'm like, girl, talking about COVID 5. Anyway, so she was like, but see the difference between me putting on the Spanx, wearing this dress with Spanx, and wearing it without Spanx. And she literally did that on her own Instagram, not on like the Instagram of her business or whatever. She is an authentic representative of Spanx. Like, she's like, I wear them. I didn't just make them for other people. I made them for myself. And she is like wearing them still to this day. And she's still out there doing Spanx talks and doing all the things. And she's not even, I don't think she runs the company. I think she is just a representative of the business. And so just look at those examples. Jesse still runs the company, but he's no longer the representative. And, Sarah Blakely doesn't run the company, and she's still authentically the number one representative of the brand. So you have your way, you get your pick of the litter, but either way, at the beginning, you're going to need to be the one. Like, it's you. So.
Well, you really do, because if you don't, like, whether it's like visibility and putting it all out into the digital world so that you can get traffic and start to create growth, that's like the most modern way of doing this. But this was always essential too in your business. If you're not the one speaking and leading your team through it all, somebody else is going to start leading them in the wrong direction. You might as well, you need to own that piece. I think, that's true for every small business. I mean, of any size, you have to.
I agree. I totally agree. And I think that the way you put it there, hopefully that resonates with people. Like, if you're not doing it, somebody else is. And it's true. Like, somebody else the ship is not just sailing open. Like, somebody is pulling it some way or another.
Someone's got to steer.
Someone's got to steer it. And it's either you or it's somebody else. And so you should probably be the one. So, you want to talk about visibility and jump in?
Yes. And I do have to tell you, by doing the homework here, the biggest discovery that I had was, when you said the number one important thing was to do the core keywords, I was like, oh, okay. Do you know, when I did some keyword research based on exactly what you said, I had never looked at it that way. It was very enlightening. I learned a lot. And there's a lot of just, messaging little changes that I need to make, because it's been a transition, in my situation of like, okay, we have all these salon clients that we've been taking care of for years. And we, socially speaking, we attracted like a lot of hairstylists and students in school. So our social presence was more, I think, to the hairdresser community, even though our clients were kind of with that journey. But I've struggled, like, sometimes that socially stuff is just sitting over there, of like, how do I blend it with the new business of Beyond Common and Tracy Watt Serena and all the different things I'm doing. So it's funny, you gave me a lot of clarity, because I'm like, okay, ultimately what I'm doing, right? Like, my highest purpose goal, like we talked about yesterday, is to serve. Like, I want to help people find the tools they need to have the confidence to proceed. Don't lay on the floor and die, even though I know you want to. Know that we're going to help you get through. Look in the mirror, put on some lipstick, feel good, have the confidence to do it another day. And that's the greater purpose, no matter what business I've been in. So I think that's consistent, right? So I'm like, okay, check. But then I was like, oh, all these words are wrong messaging. So I was like, oh, I got some work to do.
That's good. That's good. It's so, and it's like I said, I'm doing the same thing for myself. Like, once I realized, wait, the customer that we're talking to is a lot, I want to put it this way, they're not as far along as the language I was using was applicable. So I was speaking to people who were further along than what my students actually are. And I love this because for my own business, for those of you who don't know me, I've been in business for over 10 years. And for the first probably 8 years of my business, it was just fighting. Like it was just one big slog of just trying to not die every single day. Like every day was like trying to earn $1, trying to be able to feed myself. And for the longest time, that was what I was doing. I was getting really great results for clients, but I wasn't marketing myself at all because I didn't have time because I was working for clients. And then B, I didn't have a good grasp of how to do business financing. And now, for those of you who are in that position, read the book Profit First. I tell everybody, read it, read Profit First.
I tell everybody.
And
I keep reaching out to him. I want him to come on the podcast. So
yeah, he's great.
We're getting him on. I don't care.
The next time he has a book, he loves doing podcast tours for his books, and he's always writing a book. So I will be crossing my fingers for you.
His team has messaged back like, Trace, you're on the list. I'm like, okay, because I will hunt you down. You will be on that podcast.
Yeah.
Because that book was like a game changer for me.
Game changer. Absolutely. It just stops you from having like poor business behaviors with your money. So anyway, after reading that book and like really digesting it, because I read it like 4 years before I was able to actually do anything about it. And then once I did digest it, the business changed and I was able to start marketing myself. But my point in saying all that is that what my courses are for and who my courses are for and what I'm offering people is really for the people who are struggling right now, who are either starting and are feeling directionless, like the people who are like, there is no one guiding the ship. Like, I don't know how to
like the steering wheel's out of control.
The wheel is literally spinning and they're just trying not to die. Like that's my sweet spot of helping people who feel like they are basically out of control. They're in a business that is not in their control. And so like my goal is to help people get control of their business through marketing specifically, like get a handle on what it is that you're putting out into the world, how you're saying it, how you're doing it, and all that good stuff. And so because of that, like a lot of these visibility things, the goals and the things that we're going to talk about today were a function of me trying to figure that out for myself. And those keywords that we're talking about, I now have to go back and do those, like re-examine my own keywords to really focus on the right person for myself. So all this stuff that we're talking about for both me and Tracy, these are things that we have to do for ourselves on a regular basis. Don't feel like once you do this, you don't have to do it again. Nope, you're going to have to do the work. This is the work. Like this is the thing that you have to kind of do on a regular basis. It's always centering yourself around your customer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And a lot of our salon owner friends, and I think in general, like 85% of the business community right now is looking to hire people.
Yeah.
So even in the sense of knowing the keywords of what would stand out to people who are hiring.
Yeah.
So I know that like people didn't used to think about it this way.
Yeah.
Like marketing for the talent that you need to really grow and scale your business. And using this effectively for that is like, you need those people to serve the clients you're going to attract. So it's two sort of ways of attracting the right people into, to get seen.
Yeah, to get seen. Okay, so I'm going to go through our first prompt, and we're not going to go through all of them like one by one, but I do want to make sure that I address any questions you have, Tracy, but I want to make sure that we also get to a lot of these topics, because the first thing that we need to think about whenever if you go through and you get download the workbook, which I highly encourage you to do, when you download the workbook, the assessment is like essentially a list of things that you need to be thinking about for activities for you to do. So are you doing any of these things? Are you doing them right now? How can you start incorporating them? And the visibility goals that we're going to talk about today are basically the why behind the activities that are in the assessment. So the first question that I would love for everyone to consider is, why do you want to gain visibility? Like, what will visibility do for your business? Like, don't think about it for yourself. Because again, we've talked about how a lot of people don't want to be the person on screen or whatever. So don't think about you. What will visibility do for your business? What benefits will you get from having a more visible business? And I want you to think about that, like really think about that. So for you, Tracy, let's talk it out.
I answered this question already.
Good. So yeah, go ahead. Tell me what your answer is.
I really, because this has been on my heart and mind a lot. So this, I've been doing the deep work on this one
Yeah.
for a while. And for me, it's become, I had to get over that fear of like, oh, who cares what I have to say? Like all the things, all the
Yeah.
imposter, like ego, quiet, not now. There's no saber-toothed tigers. Stop talking. Like I don't have to be afraid.
Yeah.
So I had to have this, inner coaching going on all the time.
Yeah.
But for me, it's been to help more people. It's like visibility means that, okay, I push through the fear and do it anyway, so I can actually serve and help people.
Yeah.
If I keep getting stuck in my own loop of like, oh, who cares or any of that stuff,
Yeah.
then I'm not going to be able to serve like my greater purpose, which
Yeah.
is to really help people that need it. So
Yeah.
the visibility piece is like so anchored in my purpose of why I made all these crazy changes in my life, which has been really exciting.
Yeah.
So for me, it's just that. And then I guess by doing that, by sort of getting yourself off your mind and moving into how you could really serve your customer, like they need you, that is the best way I can look at it. And then like all things in my life, if you focus on bringing more value than anybody else, money follows.
Yeah.
So your sales will grow by you like showing up for everyone.
Yeah. And I'm a big fan of the Zig Ziglar quote that I'm going to mangle, which is the goal is to help as many people as possible so that you can make as much money as possible. And I always thought that was really interesting that Zig Ziglar threw that in there. He was like, oh, the best way to make as much money as possible, help as many people as you can. And it wasn't.
Yeah, he always said that. Like if you help everybody else get what they want,
Yep,
you will get what you
will get
what you want. And so it is true, like when you stop thinking about it and just focus on, okay, there's people out there that really need what how the only way to get it to them is to be visible. So it's like, to me, it's like so ingrained in my heart. So is that what you meant by that question? Did I answer it right?
Yeah. But it's also for those of you who are, in a position right now where you're like, I don't have that same why. And I will say for me, I have a twofold why. And so for everybody who's like, oh, that's great, Tracy wants to help people, I just want to do hair, or I just want to, like, whatever the thing it is that you say, we're gonna really eliminate the just out of your language. There will be no just when we get done with you. But like, I just want to do hair. I just want to, that is perfectly reasonable to have the desire to do the business that you are in. Maybe you just love doing a thing. And so you want to do that thing and you want to make money while you do it. So if your why, I need to gain visibility because I have 4 children and I'm the breadwinner in my family and I need to be able to put these 4 kids through college, that's perfectly reasonable. Like if that's not your why, then I want you to, and this might sound scary, but I want you to look it up. How much does a 4-year degree at a public institution in your state cost? How much does it cost to put a kid through school? How much does it cost to put 4 kids through school? You need to gain visibility so that you can make however much money that is, so that you can put your kids through college without them having to go into crazy debt. That is also a reasonable thing for needing to gain visibility. If you are in a position where, like myself, I grew up in, I like to say I grew up in non-frugal poverty, because I realize now that there are people who are like frugal, so their lives look poor, but it's not because they actually are poor. Like I grew up in abject poverty, homelessness kind of poverty. And I literally am doing everything in my life to never, ever, ever experience that again. And to make sure that no one in my family ever experiences that again, because it has been a generational thing in our family. Like, each generation is supposed to get a little bit better and a little bit better. And in our family, that don't happen. And so
you're gonna lead the way to change the dynamic.
Exactly. I'm like attempting to lead the way, change the dynamic. I want to be an example. So for me, gaining visibility is about being an example for the people in my life, like the like real people who I see every day, but also for the people who I know are like me. And as I've grown as a business person and started meeting new people in different environments, what I'm realizing that is that there are a lot of us out there who are what we'll call us first generation entrepreneurs who did not grow up having businesses, who did not grow up in a family with anybody who had a business, who did not grow up with anybody's version of money. And now that you're like in a business and you're starting your own thing and you're doing your own thing, a lot of the visibility that we need is so that we can be the example for other people of that fact that you can change your own life. You can change the narrative. You can change the trajectory of a whole family by being the person who doesn't do everything that like doesn't do the same thing that everybody else has always done. And so for me, you know, a part of that visibility is that. But then what will it do for my business? Well, I don't know about y'all, but I'm not trying to build a business to sell. I want to build a business to keep. And I want this business to retire me. I want this business to live past me once I'm gone. I don't want to build a business that is going to be with me and then die with me. I have legacy goals. And so what do I need visibility for? I need visibility to serve those legacy goals for my business as well. So if you're thinking about this, like there are a lot of super valid reasons. Like Tracy's reason is extremely valid. Her mission and goal is to help people and to serve, and visibility gets you that. But if your mission or your values are simply internal to your family, that's also fine. But whatever it is you're doing, you still need the visibility in order to get there. You just need to put a pin in why. Because if you don't have a why, like doing that LinkedIn profile thing that I talked about yesterday might feel like, well, that's stupid. I don't want to do that. But if you look back at the reasons why you're doing everything, you can kind of override your own brain and override your random self-worth issues that we talked about yesterday. Like you can override those things and say, if I'm going to be the person who helps generations of people, you know, find their way, or if I'm going to be the person who's an example in my family, or if I'm going to be the person who builds a legacy business, I have to have that LinkedIn profile, because without having the LinkedIn profile or a YouTube channel, you won't get found. You won't get seen. You won't be able to build that kind of legacy without those things.
Well, it's true what you're saying, because the people that are most successful, it's not because they have any more willpower, they're not smarter. It is that in those moments of, I don't feel like it, that you're sort of rational, like, okay, I want to put my kids through college and have them come out with no debt.
Yeah.
That's worth it to go figure out how to change up your LinkedIn, because you don't know how many thousands of dollars that could lead to.
Yep.
So it's the thing that we take action even when we don't feel like it. That's the difference between like somebody like Sarah Blakely and the person that had a great idea, you know, like double spanks. No, I don't know. But anyway, that's a thing. That's a thing since COVID, the double spanks. Like, So anyways, but like to really help women in this huge way, like, we need double spanks now. I don't know.
Yeah. And Sarah has shown double spanks. She's an advocate.
She's probably who invented it anyway.
Yeah.
Since COVID. But the thing is that, in that moment of, I don't feel like it, you would say, you know what? No, I want to be this person that changes my family's like timeline of how we are in the world. No debt. I'm really teaching like sound financial practices to my children. I'm going to do the LinkedIn profile.
Yes. Like literally it seems so dumb, but at the same time, it's so real. And to use Sarah as an example again, the other thing that, you know, like you said, having the why helps you get over the issues. When you have these whys, it also gives you the ability to do like what you were saying about doing the thing that you may not want to do. Not just like, I don't feel like it, but sometimes you have active script running in your head that's like, you shouldn't, you can't, you know, sit down. Don't, like you said, nobody want to hear from you. Like all that stuff that's like an active script running in your head. But if you think about what someone like Sarah Blakely was able to do, she overrode those scripts, because I promise you, she is just like a regular woman. She had that stuff. She had a father who was like, you know, you probably keep selling those fax machines. Like there's like lots of things that people who are successful, the thing that gets them to be successful is the fact that they override all their own head trash. Like they don't let the head trash stop them from doing the things that they need to do in order to get where they need to go. And so visibility for a lot of us is a lot of it is just overcoming that head trash and doing the things that we want to do or that we know we need to do, whether we want to do them or not, whether we feel like it, whether it's being a true professional is doing things that you don't necessarily want to do when your business actually calls for it, period.
Period.
So
Great
we
definition.
have to be true professionals and do the thing whether we want to do it or not. And you need to set yourself up for that success. And part of what we're talking about here is like a lot of the activities that I'm talking about are not activities that are going to be like, oh God, I have to do that every day. Fixing your LinkedIn profile is something you do like once every other year, but you need to be doing it. Like you still need to do things actively to get yourself where you need to be, right?
I love that you attach that to legacy goals, because that I think makes a lot of difference for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So that is really awesome that you brought that up.
Yeah.
And how.
So you have to figure out for all the people who are watching this or who listen to us later, you need to be thinking about what your goals are as far as gaining visibility for your business. So that's number one, because if you have a big why, a big enough why, it will help you to become professional at being the spokesperson. Like you can be a professional spokesperson for your business. But then the next thing in visibility goals is what specific activities can you do to gain visibility? So
that is what I'm excited about, because
yes.
Remember, we're dealing with lots of creatives.
Yeah.
We don't want to send anyone down another rabbit hole that's going to take them 3 weeks to get out of.
Yes.
So that's why I was like, please be very tactical and specific with us, because as a creative group of people, we can get stuff done, but not if it's going to send us down a rabbit hole. So
exactly. And I am not a fan of rabbit holes. I'm all about tactics, because
that's why I was like, yay.
Tactics are the thing that help us to, again, not rabbit hole, not, fall down a well, not hide. Because if it's a tactic, then you can check it off. Like you can go, think I did that. And then, you can repeat them as necessary, but tactics are great because they get you the check mark where you can say, I did that thing and I can move on with my life. We were going to talk about like how to make it sustainable tomorrow, evaluating, optimizing, that sort of thing tomorrow. But for today, I want to think about what those specific things are. So depending on who you are and who your customer is, so that combination, who you are and who your customer is, the specific activities that you list here when you download this workbook, the specific activities you list may be different. So we go back to that fabric of your hair conversation we had yesterday, where not every hair color works on everybody. Like not every treatment works on everybody. Not every haircut works on everybody. So we are going to talk about some tactics, and some of them may fit you and some of them may not fit. But the goal here is to figure out what works best for you.
Yeah, so that high level that we went into yesterday, the deep dive. So you guys don't need that training, but the idea is if you keep that top of mind, always take everything that Lindsay is about to share with us through the lens of who am I and who is my customer?
And who is my customer?
And it has to fit in that lens.
Yeah.
This way you will not go down a rabbit hole. If you remember who you are in your business and who your customer is, and every activity you give us that's specific, we just have to put that lens on it first, that higher level.
Yep. So let's talk about very, very, very high level, and then we'll kind of get down to the nitty gritty. Visibility is about being seen by people who don't know you exist. So let's start with what that term means, because a lot of us might think visibility means being seen by the people who know who you are. And that's nice, but it won't make you more money. It won't help you serve people. Like being seen by the people who already know you exist is all right, but it's not.
Hi.
Hi, how
are you?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like we all know that our family and friends are lovely and amazing people mostly. But for the most part, they ain't our customers, right? Like it's so rare that your family and friends are your actual customers.
Right. And can I just give a little tip here? Because I've been going through this with a lot of clients, and it's just very important to say. So often our family and friends are not supporting us, are not like advocates of our business. And I'm always coaching people through, they're upset about it.
Yeah.
And the thing is that remember who you are and who your customer is. Mm-hmm. It's okay. They may think they're even helping you by saying, oh, are you sure you're not going to get a job? bless and release. Like, you do not have to let that in your brain. I'm here to tell you, you're amazing. You've got this.
Yeah.
And if you have it on your heart to go forward with your business, find yourself some people that can support you in the way that you need, and understand that it's okay. Your family and friends do not have to get it.
Nope.
They don't.
They don't.
You can still be successful.
You can still be, and that's like a huge portion of the visibility challenge is like your family and friends may honestly be working against you, and not because they hate you, but because they are either very comfortable in their discomfort and they want you to be comfortable in yours, and you can tell them to move along with that, or they're scared for you. Like
they're
that.
Trying to protect you.
They're trying to protect you. They're terrified and they want to protect you. I know I deal with this with my family because my mother is very risk averse and my sister is a genius, and also my older sister, very risk averse. And so a lot of times I will have conversations with both of them about things that I'm doing in my business. And I can like feel their tension like building because they're like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And I'm like, look, people, calm yourselves. Like, I'm not asking your permission. I'm just telling you what's going on. And so your family and friends are not your customers, right? They're people who are well-intentioned, but not your customer. And so if we want visibility, we need to be seen by other people. What that means is that we need to focus on platforms, and I'm just going to use the word platform because the word platform is so applicable here. We need to focus on platforms where search is possible. So platforms where search is possible means there are certain places that people are actively looking for answers to questions. They're actively looking for engagement opportunities. They're actively looking for you or someone like you to solve their problem. That is a thing that is happening in the internet constantly. People are looking for answers. Now, what our job is as business owners is to figure out where those places are that our customer is looking for answers for questions, and then being there so that we can answer their questions and potentially bring them into our fold, or at the very least being there so that they can see that we are the answer to their question, and then they can bring themselves into the fold. So that's number one. And if you're thinking like, what does that mean? Think Google. So what does everyone do when they have a problem? They Google it. Period. That's like the number one thing everyone does when they have a problem is they're like, oh, they Google it, or they go in community and they ask. So people either Google the question, and most of the time they do both. So they Google the question, or they head over to a group that they belong to, like a Facebook group or something like that. And they ask other people, hey, I have this problem. Can you help me solve this problem? And then everybody in that group gives them whatever answer either that they have off the top of their head or that they themselves have already Googled. Like they are.
Yeah, isn't that funny? No, you're so right. That's hilarious. Even like, I even hear like 80-year-olds going, oh, just Google it. And it's so funny how it's like really, it's so ingrained. I love it.
So with Google being the number one question, the number one answer, regardless of what device people are on, the number one thing people do is Google it. Then what you need to be thinking about is how to get found when someone is Googling the thing that they need help with. So this goes right back to my thing that I said, what's the number one thing you can do is start looking up those keywords that people are using to like solve their problem. What's their issue and how do they solve it? So going back to the hair example, so we had the term balayage, and how like that is an industry term. It is now becoming like a street term, but it's mostly an industry term. And so if someone doesn't know what balayage is, the question is, what are they Googling? What does someone Google if they don't know what balayage is? And then you, person who is a business owner who does balayage, you need to know what that term is that someone's Googling when they don't know what balayage is. And you can find that out easily using my favorite website on the planet, trends.google.com. So if you're like, I don't know what people do, you don't have to. Google already knows. Go to trends.google.com and type in terms like balayage or whatever those industry terms are, and then
hair disaster. No.
Yes.
How to be like the right.
How
like,
to
they would say
Kardashian like, hair or
what, like blonde at the beach. Like
beachy blonde.
Say stuff that's like, oh, I really like that kid, like, like a 10-year-old daughter blonde. And like towhead blonde. Never think as a hairstylist.
Right.
is what consumers will Google. So you have
Yes.
to really be like, okay, ask your friends
Ask your
that aren't in the industry.
Yep. But see, this is where this is going. So if you use Google Trends, they're going to give you a list of other terms that people look for when, like what other terms other than balayage are people typing in. So you can find what actually is trending on Google by using Google Trends to look up terms so that you can then use those terms on all of your visibility platforms. So we talked about Google, people Google. But you're like, I'm a hairdresser and there's 900 million other hairdressers or other hair salons. How do I compete for the term balayage? My answer to that is you don't. What in reality you're going to be doing is using all of the other platforms in the internet to serve you in helping get found. So you yourself, let's say Tracy, I'll use Tracy as an example because she's here. Tracy Watts-Serino. How long has your website, TracyWatts-Serino.com, been around?
A year and a half.
A year and a half. So in internet terms, her website is prenatal. It's not even, it's barely even born out into the world. It's very, very young. Now, if you are Google looks at the age of a website before it serves up people that website as an answer to their problem. So even if Tracy has like the perfect answers to questions about balayage and things like that, it's not exactly likely that she's going to get found on her website as a search option. She might. So I'm not saying don't do search optimization on your website. I'm saying don't only do search optimization. When I said make a list and what are the specific activities you can do? Search optimization is one, but there's a bunch of other platforms where people are looking for answers to questions that you can actually be on, like Pinterest. So we'll use Pinterest as an example because what are people on Pinterest for?
They're always looking for something.
They're looking like literally that's why they're on Pinterest. They're looking for something.
Like if I'm like, I need a recipe for broccoli and I have some rice, mushrooms, and a carrot. Yeah. I will literally put that into Pinterest. Boom. Like very specific.
Yep. Very specific.
I need to know how to organize this. Organize your pantry. Boom. Yep. Boom. So yeah, you use it very specific.
Very specifically. And so since people are using Pinterest very specifically, and because let's say Pinterest is also, it has a lot of other search benefits that we'll get to in a second. But because people are using Pinterest so specifically, you can think, okay, if I want to get found for, beachy blonde hair or whatever the keywords are that you find when you do your keyword research, you can then start building up your Pinterest to have a lot of content around those keyword terms that send people back to your salon website, your blog, whatever type of content you have that you want to send them to. Building that up over time. Do not expect that you're going to just go to Pinterest. Like I said, nothing we do is going to get instantaneous results. It all takes time. That was in the first session that we had. But if you start building in the practice of doing this over time, you will start getting traffic. Because what Pinterest,
foundational, right?
It's foundational. Yep. What Pinterest does that is different from every other platform. And if you use Pinterest, you know this. If you don't use it, you're like, oh, I didn't know Pinterest does that. No other platform does what Pinterest does. If you search beachy blonde hairstyles or whatever, if you search that on Pinterest for the next month, whether you search it again, you're going to get images of beachy blonde. You're going to get new stuff delivered to you regularly about that search keyword. So if you type in broccoli, carrots, and mushrooms into Pinterest, it's going to keep serving up broccoli, carrot, mushroom dishes to you.
I'm using that example because I literally did that, and it's been way longer than a month. I don't know how long ago. I still, when I open up Pinterest, I'm getting recipes, which I'm happy about because I usually have those on hand.
Exactly. And that's the reason why Pinterest does that, is because what Pinterest understands is that if someone's doing a search, that likely they're not doing an instantaneous answer search on Pinterest. They're doing a search for a long-term issue. So if someone is like in the process of trying to figure out what hairstyle works best for a round face or whatever the thing is that they're doing, they're not doing it because they're going to the hairstylist tomorrow. They're doing it because they're thinking about it. They're researching their own solutions to a problem. And so that is the ultimate invisibility for you, because you can then serve them up potential answers to their problem. That is what Pinterest is good for. And it will keep serving and keep Pinterest is great because it keeps serving people answers even after they've stopped searching. And so you don't have to be on Pinterest constantly in order to be swept up in the answering of someone else's question. You just have to use the right keywords, which are the words that they're using when they're searching. And you have to have a good, compelling image on Pinterest that people would want to click.
I
That's
did
it.
not know any of this about Pinterest. This is awesome.
Yeah, Pinterest is a perpetual search engine, meaning that you search once and it keeps sending you those results even after you've searched. That is huge for visibility. So that's one of the things that we, as people who are seeking visibility, we need to be on platforms and serving ourselves up on platforms where people are getting that kind of perpetual results answer. Now, another place that does that really well is YouTube. YouTube does it less than Pinterest, but it does it more than any other non-Pinterest platform. Meaning,
so Pinterest and YouTube are the two?
Are the two. If you're looking for a specific thing, if you're looking for, I always use a dumb example, if you're looking for how to change the headlights on a Ford Taurus or whatever.
Something specific.
It's very specific. If you're looking for that and you watch a few videos on it, then YouTube is going to start delivering up videos about Ford Taurus maintenance. Because what they've identified is that you own a Ford Taurus and that you then are going to need to maintain this Ford Taurus. And so I don't even know if they make a Ford Taurus anymore. So,
I have no clue actually.
but my whole point in bringing that up is that it's perpetual search as well, meaning that once you search something on YouTube, YouTube starts serving up content related to the search that you've made. And if you watch YouTube, you will understand that that is exactly what they're doing. So if you are a salon owner and you're like, I don't want to have a YouTube channel because like that takes time and I'm not a personality and all the visibility crap that we talked about already. If that's what mindset you have, that's fine. Then don't do that. Do a question answer YouTube channel where you literally do nothing but answer questions. Like that way, when someone's asking a question, you are likely to be found when they're asking that question. And then the content you put out there is great because you don't need to you're not trying to be an influencer who gets 1 million views on a video. That is unnecessary. All you really need is a few hundred people to see the videos that you put out there because you only need people essentially who are going to become customers of yours. So you don't need thousands of subscribers and lots of watch time and all the things that you hear. Like we talked about like things that you can ignore.
Don't go down the rabbit hole.
Ignore all of the advice on how to grow a YouTube channel. You're not trying to grow a YouTube channel. You're trying to get found for specific keywords for search. So that is a different thing. If you want, like, I just want to be found when someone's looking up how to change a light bulb on the Ford Taurus because I maintain Ford Tauruses and I want people to know that they can come to me if they can't change their own light bulb. Like that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
Make a video about all the other details of the Ford Taurus that you want people to know you know how to fix. That's the key, is that when you make those videos, it tells people, I know how to solve this problem for you. And so they can either solve it themselves, which is unlikely because we know how often do you solve your own problems? Rarely. And so like, we look for answers and then we find somebody to do it for us. That is what we really want. But the only way we can do that is if we're getting ourselves out there on platforms like YouTube or on Pinterest, where we're letting people know, hey, you know what? You got a problem. Guess what? I can help you with that. So don't fight with like, oh, I don't have 1 million like subscribers, or I don't have anybody who's, I only have like 200 watches on my video. That is literally 200 people who did not know you existed. 200. And so stop getting caught up on all the like metrics that other people who are influencers. This is my big speech for all small business owners. Everything that you see for the most part in the internet is aimed at influencers, meaning it's helping people grow an influencer style audience. You are not an influencer. You are a small business owner. You don't need 80 million subscribers and 10,000 fans on Instagram. And you don't need all of that. What you really need is the 1,000 true fans. Y'all have heard of 1,000 true fans before, Kevin Kelly. You need 1,000 true fans. And those 1,000 don't have to be on one platform. You could have 200 over here, 300 over here, 400. Like you can accumulate those 1,000 over a variety of platforms. So that's what we really need to be aiming at, is like answering real questions, being authentic, and being on platforms where people can find you so that you can get those hundreds of people that you actually need, instead of trying to aim at like global domination with your YouTube channel, because you don't actually need that.
It's so true. I've had a client reach out to me a few years back that has a really major following on Instagram, right? Like really like famous level hairstylist, making no money in this.
No money.
Whatsoever. And it's like my new talent that I was just putting on the floor was outperforming their sales because it's so much cluttery noise, I think. That and she hadn't figured out how to monetize like that. So it's like, okay, you know, so it's that's so interesting that you're bringing that up, because you don't need all that. You need to be very clear about who your customer is and who you're serving for the visit, so that you actually are growing the sales of your business.
Because if you get caught up on, okay, well, I need the swipe up. You do not need the swipe up. You don't need anything. You don't need any of that. What you really need is a good link in your bio and some consistency on your posting. Like you do not need, there's so few of the things that, you know, a lot of the noise in the internet tells you need. As a small business owner, so few of them are real. And I'm here to tell you from experience with hundreds of customers that the successful businesses, some of the most successful businesses, people who I have helped transition from less than $100,000 in revenue to like $500,000, you know, near $1 million in revenue for their businesses, small businesses, 5 employee kind of small businesses, less than 1,000 fans. Less than 1,000 fans on those platforms, because that's not what's important. What we focused on was visibility on all of the platforms. So we were focusing on getting content that answered questions, that led back to answers on the website, that helped people on their journey. Because if we can help people on their journey, then when it's time for them to make a purchase, they're going to come to you, because they're going to trust you. They're going to like you. They're going to know who you are. And then you will be the person they choose over someone who has 1 million followers. Because again, for us as small business owners, the people who have 1 million followers, what do we feel about them? We feel like they're untouchable. Oh, I can't ask that person for help because they're famous, or I can't do this, or I can't do. So sometimes being that person is counterproductive, because the real customers don't want to reach out to you, or they assume that you would cost too much, or they assume that you're going to be too fancy for them. So don't go out there aiming for these big metrics, because they're not even real. The vanity metrics don't actually make you money. They don't make you more successful. And they sometimes make you less approachable.
That's interesting. No, that
becomes counterproductive.
Like, because that is exactly what I've, seen behind the scenes of stuff that, it makes you where people wouldn't even think of hiring you, even though you could be very affordable, whatever your business is, but they wouldn't know, because that persona has of being an influencer. That's really interesting.
So you might actually be working against your own best interest by trying to get those big metrics, because you end up in a position where someone's like, oh, obviously she's too fancy for me. I can't, like, I'll never be able to afford her to do my color or whatever. When in all reality, you are just the same price as everybody else. Like, they don't know that, and they won't experience that because they'll be too afraid to click on the link in your bio. They won't be too afraid to approach you because you're too famous.
Interesting.
You don't be too famous to make money. No, like you need to
make money first, right? Like, make sure you're making money. Like, being famous money first, not a goal. Like that should never be a goal. Like, figure out how to feed your family, to build your legacy goals, help people, whatever your goals are. Do that first. Do not set out to be like, oh, I want to be an influencer that's famous. Don't do that.
Don't do that. And if you do want to be an influencer, then be an influencer. But that is being an influencer and being a small business owner are not the same thing. Just get some big clarity on that. They're not the same thing. Okay. And so all the noise about, oh, well, you can't have this many people, you can't have more people that you're following than you follow and blah, blah, blah. All that's not true because you're not an influencer. It's not true for influencers either, but it's not true for you because it doesn't matter for you how many people you follow versus how many people follow you. Who cares? How many people are paying you money? Like this, you need to be thinking about that over everything else, right?
So that's the question.
Yeah.
Ask yourself how many people are paying you money.
Right.
That's
how many people
of
those fans? That's the number that you want to be worried about. So what specific activities? So when we talk about, let's go back to Pinterest and YouTube, there are lots of other visibility things that you can be doing. If you download the workbook, you'll see like the assessment has a list of a bunch of things that you can be thinking about. But let's talk about YouTube specifically, because it's a big one that the activities around it are various. So if you are thinking about YouTube, the next thing when I say, specific activities, I think what resources do you need in order to be sustainable? If you want to have a YouTube channel that's like a question answer YouTube channel where you're actually helping people, what do you need in order to be successful with that YouTube channel? Do you need video equipment? And when I say video equipment, this is fine. Like this that you have right here is perfectly good video equipment, or like the webcam that I'm on right now. I'm not on a fancy camera. I'm just on a webcam on Zoom. Whatever the resources are, though, you need to be thinking about what those resources are. How often do you want to create these videos? Myself personally, I'm a huge fan of batch content creation so that you are not ever sitting around thinking, okay, what am I going to post on Tuesday? Make all the videos, make 10 or 15 videos at a time and post them like once a week. And then every month do another 10, or like to give yourself some sort of cycle where you're creating it, but then think, okay, if I'm going to do 10 YouTube videos a month and I'm going to record them all at once, what resources do I need? Do I need to block off time on my schedule? Do I need to hire someone to take care of my kids while I do the videos? Whatever it is, when I say resources, I don't just mean like video equipment and microphones. I mean, what do you need as a small business owner to support you while you're creating this content to get found? Because you do need support in that process. You will need resources and things, and figure out what that is. If you're going to do Pinterest as a method, you can do Pinterest by putting up YouTube videos. That also works really well, but you might also need maybe to take an hour or two to create like 25 pins on Canva or something like that. Like giving yourself whatever that time or whatever the resource like Canva or Relay That, which is one of my other favorites. What are those resources so that you can map this out for yourself and make it doable? Because if you don't figure out what it is, not just why you want to do it, what it is you want to do. If you don't figure out what the resources are you'll need, you will never do it. Like you'll just be like, okay, I'm going to have a YouTube video. I'm going to have a YouTube channel for answering questions for people about hair color. You won't do it if you don't sit down and think about what it is that you need to do, what you need to have, when you're going to do it, how many you're going to do. You need to plan that out so that essentially you'll get it done.
And one of the biggest tips I give people when I walk them through my goal setting training is you need to put it on your calendar like an appointment.
Like an appointment.
That's it. We're scheduled right now together. I would literally put that on my schedule, which is record YouTube videos.
Yeah.
It's I would even say map out the topics. I would have that be an appointment. Then I'd have another appointment for when I'm recording. If I've been doing editing myself, but sometimes I hire out for it. So you have to put it as an appointment or it doesn't get done.
And so when you look at the resources in the workbook, remember, resources aren't just stuff. It's also time, people management. So you might have to have people who help you, not just not just video editors, but people you might need someone to watch your kids, or you might need someone to keep your dog. I know I've up to this year had a very rambunctious and lovely dog who would, no matter what I was doing, always needed to be visible.
The only reason Rocky's not in the background today is because Anthony's actually home.
Yeah, see?
So, because I'm everyone's always well, Rocky just is chill. He's part of our videos all the time. So if anyone's wondering, Anthony's home today. So he's got another person to sit with.
Yeah. But that's what I mean by what are the resources? Because you might need to make sure you're recording when your husband's home so that he can watch the kids and watch the dog and all that stuff. Or maybe the resource you need is to go get a hotel room for a couple of hours so that you can record in the hotel room where there will be no children and no dogs.
I've done that.
I have too.
We gotta get away from it all. Yeah.
And so like whatever the thing is for yourself, just figure out what that looks like.
Can I ask a question about, so posting search friendly content on YouTube, is that the same as how you would go about doing the Pinterest?
Yes.
Like where you're answering the questions that way? Okay. I just wanted to know, I'm like, is there some secret strategy that we're missing out from Google?
No. I mean, the secret strategy, and I'm telling people this and they don't believe me. The secret strategy to all of this, first of all, both YouTube and Pinterest serve up answers in Google. So if someone Googles your question and you have a YouTube video or you have a pin on it, you will also likely get found in Google search. So that's the big hack, is that the reason why I'm pointing you at these platforms like LinkedIn and YouTube and Pinterest is because they all serve up Google. Like Google actually pulls from those platforms, and those platforms are way older than your website. And so they will get found before you. And so you can kind of hack the system by going through those platforms that are older than your businesses. Yeah. So that's rule number one. But the big secret is that real word searches are like our current reality. So if you can figure out what the real word search terms are for your thing, don't try to be fancy. If you can use the real word search terms, that's the best, because most people are searching now via voice. And I like to remind everyone that we are all collectively quite dumb, which means that we say the dumbest things to Siri and Alexa and Google. We ask the dumbest questions. And I want you all to recognize that and dumb all your questions down to actually be what people are asking. So like what Tracy said earlier, like how do you get that hair that's kind of stripy? Like, that's a real question. Like,
right. And every hairdresser just cringe because they'll be like, stripe. But they would say, we would have clients come in all the time that were like, what's that like stripey? And they don't even want a stripe.
No, they don't want a stripe.
Everything the furthest thing from a stripe, but that's how they would describe it.
But
so
that's what they describe.
You got to communicate. You got to like pull back the layers, ask more questions.
Yes, like go.
They'll complain if there's a stripe, but that's how they describe it.
Yes. And so that's what I mean by like, figure out what those terms are and that people are actually searching for, what they're actually saying, what they're actually looking for, and then answer those questions. So like, you can have a whole YouTube video on like stripy hairstyles and like, be like, okay, this is what's a real stripy hairstyle. And this is what you actually want. So when you go into your salon, ask for this, and this. These are what you really want. If you want this kind of stripy, or this kind of stripy, knowing of course that like all the other hairdressers are cringing because you're using that term, but that's the term that regular people use. So who cares what the other hairdressers think? They're not your client.
Yep.
That's
like a mic drop moment.
They're not your client.
Yeah. That's so funny. Yeah. Because clients. Okay. Yeah, no, that's amazing. Yeah. So what is if we only had time to do one activity today as homework, what do you want us to do before tomorrow?
I want you to think about your why. Like nothing else matters if you don't know why you're doing it, because you won't override your own head trash if you don't give yourself a big enough reason. So why do you need to gain visibility? What is it going to do for your business? What is it going to do for your life? Figure that out. Because once you get your big why, like, okay, I'll do the stupid YouTube video, like that'll come up once you figure out, okay, I really do need this. But if you don't have a reason for doing it, then you won't do it.
Okay. Yeah. Love it. Thank you so much for being here. I have like pages and pages of notes. I'm so excited. And I cannot wait to, dive into tomorrow because that's even more exciting.
Yeah, tomorrow is like evaluation, optimization, figuring out how to make the best outcomes from what we do.
And then will we have time to go into how we can, I always like to call them my life automations, like set it up so that there are, we might have to check it.
Yeah.
But anything that we can automate.
Yeah, we can absolutely talk about automation because I'm a huge fan of it myself.
Yes, me too. Yeah. Love it. All right. Well, you have an amazing rest of your day. Thank you so much for being here. It was a pleasure as always.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I will see you all tomorrow.
I was just going to tell everybody, if you guys don't have the workbook, click the link below because it is available right there. Yeah. And if you guys have specific questions, post those too, because we'll bring them up tomorrow.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Make sure you post your questions in the comments because we will be reading them.
Yes, we will. I was like, I'll see you in the morning.